Hey, Martin, giv mig lige skålen, det der. Jeg skal lidt mere med væsken.
Jamen, datoen, det var den 10. 13. Og dagens...
Den 13.
Det går over, at du skrev det om, ikke?
Ekstra regnskabsmåned, ja.
Okay. Og dagens forfatter, det var Kyro og undertegnet. Sådan, det skal lige siges, vi skrev det her, sådan, inden vi drev derover af. Så vi lyver. Ja, for at få noget med. Vejret, da vi tog afsted, det var fint vejr, og vi tjekkede degree-graderen derude i bilen, den viste 12 grader, da vi tog fra Livain. Og ellers så havde der sådan set været solskin hele dagen. Planen for dagen, det var at køre mod Mariposa, eller til mod Mariposa, og gennem Yosemite Nationalparken. Og dagens begivenheder, så har vi skrevet sådan en lille stil her. Efter morgenmødet, så gik konkurrencen for tip 9 rigtigt, den gik i gang. Med diverse ballonpuster, lakridsspisning og stærkmandskonkurrencer. Og vinderen, det blev jo efter en recount, skal det lige siges, vogn 4 jo. Det kan jeg kun være tilfreds med, i og med at vi fik de der fine terninger jo. Derefter så var der afgang til Nationalparken, hvor dagens første overraskelse kom. Only cash access. Så der måtte jeg jo lige have det fundet. Og efter de store sædler rullede over disken, væltede det ind med naturoplevelser. Ved G-punktet blev holdet delt op i 2. Nogen skulle køre igennem, mens resten gik op af G-punktet. Inden bilernes afgang skulle der tages billeder af bjergenes refleksioner i det spejlklare vand, hvilket hurtigt blev ødelagt af tøsen Tøffe, da han absolut skulle på hovedet i det. Helt frivilligt.
Er det kommet frem igen?
Parentessko.
Ja, det har jeg set i dag.
Og de faldt ned også.
Ja, det tror
jeg.
På toppen af bjerget så blev tropperne igen samlet, hvorefter den legendariske toastmiddag blev indtaget. Turen den gik herefter ned til de der gigantiske træer, hvor halvdelen havde det mål at se The Fallen Tunnel Tree, trods de 2 mil. Efter 3 mil fandt vi noget af det, og sikke en oplevelse.
Ja, det var en oplevelse.
Ja. Turen gik herefter til Mariposa, hvor der blev indtaget diverse former for kloriseret mad.
Det slapper I lige af dog. Vores der var vist forfærdeligt, var.
Der var bare glor. Herefter så gik turen over til loungen, hvor der blev indtaget billig sprut. Og så ender referatet sådan her jo. Så gik vi jo derover. Men folk er jo efterhånden ved at have hørt, hvad der foregik. Sådan at omkring 1:30, så måtte vi ikke få lov at købe mere derovre. Og 2:00, så blev vi altså vist ud derovre. Og så efter at have hoppet lidt rundt herude på parkeringspladsen, så kom hende der nattedamen herover og bad os om at dæmpe os lidt, og vi så kunne trække ind på et værelse. Det gjorde vi jo så.
Desværre var det
her. Vi trække ind på værelse, jeg ved ikke helt med det der med, at det blev dæmpet, hvor meget det egentlig hjælp på det. Ham den lokale sheriff her var til synligheden ikke helt til vist, for han dukkede op omkring 2:30 eller sådan noget. 2 stykker faktisk. Så men jeg tror så ja, så måtte vi lige stå skoleret der, og yes sir, no sir, indeed sir.
Jeg er sikker på, at jeg er glad. Det kan vi prøve igen.
Ja, så har vi gode tips. Så har vi skrevet, at chocolate chips, cookies og vand, det er livsnødvendigt ved bjergbestigen.
Ja.
Dagens sponsorer, der har ikke rigtig været nogen. Dagens bummer, der er masser. Vi har lavet sådan en prioriteret liste, ligesom de andre dage. Der var noget med, at Lene, hun delte velvilligt ud af sine chocolate chip cookies, men da hun så endelig skulle til at have sin egen, så tabte hun det. Så hun
jeg fik en halvdel af.
Du fik en enkelt bid, gjorde du ikke?
Jo.
Nå, og som nummer 2, der har vi skrevet mand uden vand, lige med Ivan. Citat slut. Og som nummer 3, så har vi skrevet which part of the rules did you guys not understand? Ja, that's it.
Nu må jeg lige, jeg kan ikke godkende før det sidste kom på skrift. Det har jeg refereret mundtligt.
Det tilgår.
Og så var det ikke bare fordi vi overså en.
Den var der ikke.
Det virker helt vildt det her, det gør.
Men jeg vil godt give dig ret, at det kom meget hurtigt, at vi kom op på broen.
Der var en sej U-turn, vi lige lavede med. Det kan da gå.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the National Park Service and the Golden Gate National Park Association, welcome to the Alcatraz Night Tour.
Der er sengepladser.
My name is Charlie, and I'll be one of your guides this evening. Before I begin telling you about Alcatraz, I have a few safety announcements for you. Blue and gold fleet vessels sail under the rules and regulations set forth by the U.S. Coast Guard. For your safety, please do not stand on the benches, sit on the back of the benches, or lean over the rails. If you have young people in your group, please keep them in your sight at all times. And be sure to walk about the vessel and don't run. There is a possibility of encountering rough waters, so when moving up and down stairwells, please use the handrails at all times. Life reservists are located under the benches because there are no food or drink services on Alcatraz. One other special announcement. First, the top of Alcatraz is steep and long, the equivalent of a 13-story climb with a 12% grade. If you use a wheelchair, have a heart condition, or mobility needs, or anticipate any difficulty in getting to the top, we do have a mobility vehicle available on the dock. If you need to use the back vehicle, you must be one of the first passengers off the boat. So we strongly recommend that you sit on the lower deck near the exit. Family members may walk alongside the ground, but only those with mobility needs are allowed to get an unusual perspective of San Francisco Bay and Alcatraz's place in it. Off to the right-hand side of the boat, you can see the Bay Bridge, which connects San Francisco and Oakland. Beneath it are two islands, Yerba Buena Island and Treasure Island. Treasure Island is actually man-made and was until recently a military base. In 1939, it housed the Golden Gate International Exposition, similar to the World's Fair. On the other side of the boat, if you look at the ocean, is the Golden Gate Bridge. Both the Golden Gate and the Bay Bridge were built during the 1930s, so prisoners on Alcatraz got to witness the construction of both bridges from a spot right in the middle. During the gold rush days, thousands of ships into the Golden Gate with passengers dreaming of making a fortune in the Sierra Nevada foothills. Underneath the Golden Gate Bridge on the left-hand side, you can see a rectangular silhouette. That's Fort Point, a fortress constructed in the 1850s to defend San Francisco Bay from invaders. Fort Point, like Alcatraz, is part of a national park, the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Because of the historic nature of Fort Point, the arch that you see stretching over it was specially designed by architects in order to save the fort from destruction during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. Alcatraz originally had the same use as Fort Point, as a fortress to defend San Francisco from attackers. As you look ahead toward the island, you can see how its location here in the middle of the bay, just a mile and a half from San Francisco, made it an ideal location for the fort. You'll hear more about the fortress used on your guided tour this evening. As we circle the island tonight, try to imagine Alcatraz as it used to look, with huge cannons sticking out in every direction to ward off attackers. Located at the dock and at the cell house level. Eating, drinking, and smoking are allowed only on the dock, so please finish your snacks and your cigarettes before you leave the dock area. Also, please do not pick the flowers, chase the birds, or take anything off the island other than what you may purchase in the bookstore. Sit now and speak to the driver once you reach the dock. Only those with the mobility need are allowed to ride the tram. Family members may accompany the tram by walking. We'll be dividing you into groups of about 60 in the order in which you depart the boat, so please keep the members of your party close by.
That's looking east towards Berkeley, and just to the right of that would be Oakland. You see the Bay Bridge. San Francisco's behind me. Looking north, the bay goes up that way. Richardson Bay goes up the other way to Sausalito, and the Golden Gate Bridge is to the west. You'll see that from the top of the island. So how about it, folks? Anybody pick up on the flaw in the sally port? Pretty subtle. The gun slits in there line up straight across from each other. Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing Alcatraz was never attacked. They probably would have shot as many of their own guys with that design. In fact, Fortress Alcatraz never even fired a shot in anger. By the end of the Civil War, it was already becoming obsolete. Fort Point had been finished by that time. That now sits underneath the south end of the Golden Gate Bridge. By the turn of the century, there were only 7 of the original 111 guns left on the island. And in 1907, the U.S. Army decommissioned this fortress altogether. But here's an interesting twist of Alcatraz. Here was a fortress built to keep people out. Turned out much better at keeping people in. Now, it's not the distance. It's only about 1.25 miles to the city. A good, well-conditioned athlete can swim that in about 40 minutes. So why do you think this made such a great prison? Yeah, that's one reason. He said sharks, and I'll get to that one last.
Strong coats?
The freezing cold water.
Exactly, the cold water. 48 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. You're not acclimated to this water. You can't just jump in and swim. And, of course, prisoners were never given a chance to get used to the cold water. What else about the water?
Strong currents.
Very strong currents. 19 rivers eventually end up in this bay. About 40% of California drains into this basin. All that water goes right past this island on its way out to sea. Tidal-driven currents coming in. Mix with that, you get a lot of swirling currents, eddies, undertows. Of course, prisoners were never given tide tables, so they never knew exactly what was going on with the currents. And sharks. We do have sharks here in the bay. Outside in the Pacific, we have the great whites, the people eaters. They are known to munch on swimmers and surfers pretty regularly. There are no known shark attacks inside San Francisco Bay. We have sand, nurse, and leopard sharks. Those are all bottom feeders, no man-eaters. But that doesn't make any difference, because the guys getting sent to jail here were not typically from the Bay Area. We're soldiers from the western half of the United States. When a fisherman would catch a great white outside, they might turn it over to the guards. Guards would bring it in the bay and haul it up on the dock down here and show it to the prisoners. And they would tell these guys stories. Things like, whenever we catch one of these man-eaters in the bay, which never happened, we cut off one fin. Then they can only swim in a circle around the island. All of those were very effective deterrents to escape. Let's go up the hill a little further. We'll talk just a little bit more about military. So in 1907, the U.S. Army decommissioned the fortress on Alcatraz altogether. In 1909, started construction on this building. It was built over a 3-year period by military prisoners. When the prisoners were done building it, they moved in. It was their new home. It was the largest steel-reinforced concrete building in the world. And it was a state-of-the-art prison. However, it was minimum security. In other words, the concept during the military prison years was always one of rehabilitation. Take soldiers who had committed crimes, turn them back into soldiers, get them back into their units. That's something like a 70 to 85% success rate. What that really meant was, during the military prison years, if you wanted to escape, there were ways out of here. Guys could get themselves assigned to a work detail, go over to the city, simply disappear from that. Prisoners more or less had free run of the island during the day. They could build a raft or a boat, get out of here that way. A couple of very crafty soldier prisoners printed up their own release papers. They sent those to the official Army channels. They got all the correct signatures, and they discharged themselves out of this prison. So there were ways to escape. Now, in 1933, the U.S. Army closed this facility down, and they really did that for 2 reasons. First of all, just too expensive to operate. There's nothing out here on this island. Everything had to be brought in, including fresh water. But more importantly, there were members of the military community that felt that Alcatraz was giving the U.S. Army an unfair reputation. It was like hanging their dirty laundry out for all of the public to see. Mothers were saying, I don't want my son to join the Army. He's going to end up over there in Alcatraz. So they closed this facility, and the newly created Bureau of Prisons took over. Now, why do you suppose in the late 20s, early 30s, the government would look at Alcatraz as a new federal prison? What was happening in the United States? Exactly, Prohibition. You know, Prohibition gave criminals a chance to organize like they had never organized in the past. It was a crime wave like our country had never seen before. In fact, many people say the organized crime we have today is a leftover from Prohibition. You had guys like Al Capone put together a syndicate that was generating in excess of $100 million a year, tax-free. At the same time, these gangsters were becoming legends, folk heroes. People's opinion of the government going downhill fast. The government was being blamed for joblessness, for the Depression, and certainly for Prohibition. They created that. So in 1933, the Bureau of Prisons said, we need to build a new super prison for the super brand of criminal coming on the scene. Started looking at land way up in Alaska. That would have been a very expensive place to build a prison. When they found out they could have Alcatraz, they came in and converted this jail into the escape-proof prison that it is so famous for being. And over the next 29 years, they sent just 1,576 guys here. That is not a lot of people. We get twice that many visitors a day out here. But these guys were all considered by the government to be the worst of the worst in the federal system, and this was the end of the line. Guess who was in that first group of criminals to be sent here?
Al Capone.
Al Capone himself. Anybody remember what he went to jail for?
Tax fraud.
Yeah, that $100 million a year tax-free caught up with him. He got sent up on an 11-year bid. Started serving his time way over in Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. From his luxury cell in Atlanta, Capone continued to run his syndicate. I'm not kidding. He had Persian carpet on the floor of his cell. He had a telephone in his cell. He had most of the other prisoners and half the guards on his payroll. In fact, they used to joke that Capone had more guards on his payroll than the warden did. His associates took up residence in the nearby hotels, and they simply ran the company from Atlanta. Well, Bureau of Prisons got fed up with that. In the middle of the night, they packed up Capone and 51 other guys, put them on a high-security train, sent that train on a circuitous route across the country. That way nobody would know where they were going, so they couldn't bust them out. It arrived on that point of land right back there with the trees on top, known as Tiburon. And these guys were so bad, they did not even open the doors on that train. They put the whole train onto a barge. Brought the barge over to this dock where you just got off. Doors opened up. These guys saw their new home for the first time. Marched up this very same road we're walking up now.